Hi, I'm Femi OK, and you're in the stream. Today, Ebola survivors cheated death, but what do they need to lead healthy lives right now? So we have a doctor, a medical student and a nurse in the house. Good thing too, because you have so many questions for them. So stand by. Our digital producer Malika Bilal is also wrangling all of your questions. What else do you have for us?
Well, among those questions is what happens to survivors who've lost so many family members. And so today in our stream app, we're asking you to test your own knowledge on that. We're featuring this quiz and I'll pose it to Femi first. We're asking how many children have lost at least one primary caregiver to Ebola. Okay, so I know that almost 4,000 children have lost or are now orphans, so it can't, that's not all of the number. So let me take it down to about 2,000. Maybe we've lost at least one parent. Am I close? Give or take, it is actually a little bit more than 16,000, right? It's a really sad stat. And of course, there are more facts and stories of survivors in our app. You can download that for more. And of course, if you're on Twitter, you can tweet us your thoughts with hashtag AJStream. The stream is only as powerful as you, our community, so let us know what you're thinking and stop by stream.aljazeera.com, and there you can record a video comment or question and let us know what stories you're following. Check out some of the other hashtags we're keeping an eye on. Ebola kills about half the people who contract it. So what's it like to survive? Around 15,000 people have survived the Ebola virus in Guinea, Liberia and Sierra Leone, and they're among almost 27,000 cases confirmed since the biggest outbreak in history began, and that was more than a year ago. There are signs of progress in fighting the disease. The World Health Organization has declared Liberia Ebola-free, and cases are dropping in Guinea and Sierra Leone. But Ebola has orphaned about 3,600 children and caused $1.6 billion in economic losses. 3 survivors are here to tell us what life is like after Ebola. In Atlanta, Dr. Ian Crozier, an infectious disease specialist who contracted Ebola while treating patients in Kenema, Sierra Leone. He was evacuated to the United States for treatment. In Monrovia, Liberia, Fode Gala is a medical student and ambulance driver who contracted the virus while transporting an Ebola patient to hospital. And in Freetown, Sierra Leone, Fatima Kamara is a nurse who, after surviving the virus, joined the Red Cross to treat Ebola patients in Kenema. So it's great to have you here, everybody. I'm really glad that you're here to tell us about how you're doing, how you're feeling. Now, normally when I ask people, how are they go, oh, I'm fine. But I want you to be really honest. So I'm actually going to start, Fatima, at your head, and then everybody else, Ian and also Fode, you can join in. If we start from a top to toe, how you're doing, starting at your head, how are you doing, Fatima? What's going on in this top half here after Ebola?
You know, life is not easy after Ebola.
Yes.
But thank God I survived. That's the most important thing. I survived.
Aha. All right. So Fatima's giving us the good spin. Let's get to some nitty gritty. Fode, if you're doing a top to toe sort of exam of how you're physically doing, starting at the top, what's going on?
Well, all is not fine. Like Fatima said, first of all, I want to be grateful to the God Almighty that has spared our life to come this far. And I want to be grateful to a couple of people who was behind me. They're praying for me, Dr. Julie Gabriel of Oregon, Honorable Sir Joseph, and my medical staff that was working with me, the PCI, and every other person that prayed for me and my family. But life is not easy from here to toe. No, I'm not fine. There are some medical conditions. And as we go through the show, you're going to hear most of them, like the eye, the head, the joint, and and the bodily pain and so forth and so on. You're going to be hearing more as we go through this program. There are a lot of challenges and problems.
Ian, what's going on in your head right now? What's going on in terms of complications?
Let me start first by just telling my colleagues here that it's such a privilege to be in this space with you, particularly the two of you congratulations on your survival and the fact that you're still continuing to engage in such an important way. If we get down to brass tacks, and I start with my head, I have a lot of difficulty with my memory and sometimes with finding my words. You go a little bit lower, and I've developed a very severe eye disease in my left eye, and in fact, just a short time ago was completely blind in the eye. If we keep moving down, there are a number of other systems that I'm sure we'll talk about, but I suspect that I'm not so different from Fatima and Fode in that we have a lot of things that even though we thought it was finished and it was over, they seem to be keeping giving. And so joint pain and fatigue are probably the things that are most dominant for me outside of my eye.
Sure.
Well, Ian, you answered this question that this person just tweeted in, so I'm going to pass it over to Fatima. Mary says, do you experience any side effects or residual effects of Ebola? And I know that Ian said he's suffering some memory loss, Fatima, and I could see you look like you could recognize that as well. I know you told our producers ahead of the show that you carry a notebook around with you. What's that notebook for?
No. For me to remember whatever I want to say. So after recovering of the Ebola, I sometimes experience forgetfulness. That's my complication. Sometimes dizziness, weakness, and joint pain, generalized body pains. That's the complications.
Fode, when you were told, Fode, when you were told that you were Ebola-free, what did the doctors tell you about life after Ebola? Did they say, well, Fode, this is going to happen to you and this is going to happen to you? Did you get any warning?
No, I didn't get such a warning, but after research and doing some reading, I know after you have survived Ebola, there are a lot of complications. Like you truly have Fatima and Dr. Ian, I struggle with membranes. So sometimes I try to force myself into remembering things. So I was never told that life was going to be easy. Though I was not told about that, but I read about it that life is not going to be easy. Even 10 years from now, we don't even know our fate. So there are lots of things that are going through our head. Sometimes I sit down at this. I always think by myself, how is life going to be after 10 years? Am I going to be physically fit? Is my eyes going to be okay? So there are a lot of things that run through my mind. And many other survivors that I believe and feel they are going through the same thing that I'm going through.
Which is
Fode, in one way.
Sorry, Ian, go ahead.
In one way, we're helping teach about a completely new disease. Even though we've known about this disease for so long, for 30 years, we've never had this kind of flashlight to shine on us in a way. And so that you and Fatima and me, in some ways, are right on the very beginning, the very front of learning about this process. But I agree with you.
Yeah, Dr. Ian, I wanted to ask this question because you was one of the medical doctors that ran some tests on my eye. And I got this fear of using glasses. I was told by your colleagues that I should use glasses. But I got this fear, but yesterday the problem exists. So what if I don't use glasses? Because I don't want to get used to it because I don't know it. I feel that I'm going to fall. I tried it one time and I was walking like I'm going to fall into a deep pit. So what do you think will happen if I just decide not to use these glasses? And what do you think are going to happen to many other survivors like myself?
So Ian, fill us in about this issue of the eye. I'm going to show people here something that they may have seen online. And this is your left eye and your right eye, and then one turned green. And this is an after effect of having Ebola. What happened? Because I think this is also what's happening to Fode and many other survivors too. Can you explain it to us?
Let me say a couple of things about it, first of all. So it is clear that in some Ebola survivors, we are developing some eye disease. And that eye disease has a lot of inflammation, often in the front part of the eye, to make it simple. In some people, it'll be mild disease. In some people, it might be severe, like mine. And within a few weeks, I couldn't see very much out of the eye as well. So this is one of many, as you know personally, Fode, and as you know personally, Fatima, one of many symptoms that we're learning about in some ways for the first time. It looks like, and remember this, I survived very severe disease. So I was in the hospital for 6 weeks. I was very, very sick. And it may be that some of the complaints that I've developed may be more severe than in some other patients. But in mine, my eye developed a lot of pain and redness and difficulty seeing. And within a few weeks, my eye went from seeing very nicely to be able to not seeing at all. Part of that was a very odd change in color, which is a very, very unusual thing. And even my eye became somewhat soft. So Fode is right. We have shared the same space recently in Liberia. And we were looking at some eyes. And it turns out that I'm not the only one. There are a number of people who are also developing an eye disease. And this eye disease is important to pay attention to quickly in order to provide some sort of treatment as we understand the disease. So I'm agreeing with you, Fode. In some ways, as we talk specifically about your case, if you need glasses, for example, I wear glasses and I have some contact lenses perhaps that are in now even. If you're told that you need glasses, they shouldn't be hurting your eyes in any way, and you probably do need them. But it's the examination that we were able to do in the hospital at Elwa that allows us to say that the same inflammation is happening in the eye. Some people may not have eye disease related to Ebola. It may be some other things because there are many other causes of eye disease.
So Fode and Ian and Fatima, hold tight for a minute. Hold tight for a minute. We just got a few more questions coming in as well. Go ahead, Malika.
Well, Ian said something about I know I'm not the only one, and that is something that I'm seeing online as well. So we got a tweet from Liberia. This is Joe, and he says, in Liberia, they're doing community awareness through skits, dramatizing messages, town hall meetings, peer education, and materials. And this is all to raise awareness about what life is like for Ebola survivors. He goes on to say, though, that some of these survivors are seen as national heroes, and others are seen as a mode of transmission for the virus. So that brings me to the question, Fode. This is from NMC Lagos, who wants to know, how are you dealing with stigma? Do you face stigma in your community?
Well, before I can answer such a question, I also wanted to treat Fatima. I want to know how she's being treated when it comes to stigma in Freetown. But for me, this is one of the rare challenges that we have as survivors. In fact, I don't know where the town hall meetings have been called, like the text is saying, where they have been doing jingles. We have listened to jingles, but not much of social activity is done when it comes to survivors. We have to take this thing on our own. We have to do it for ourselves. In fact, in quite recent time, we're just planning to do awareness when it comes to stigmatization against Ebola survivors.
So Fode, break it down. Fode, break it down for us. So when you talk about stigma, do you still have the same friends you had before you had Ebola? Do you still have the same friends? Can you still go to the same places? What actually has changed for you?
We go to the same places, but we have to be very careful because there is this belief and notion that we are not still Ebola survivors. So even going there, we have to sometimes talk to people and make them to understand that indeed we are not. We can no longer infest anybody. We are not dangerous to community. So it's that we have to do our campaign so that they can understand that we are part of the community and we pose no danger to anybody. So yes, we are still going to places, but we have to be careful in doing it. Like for me, there are certain places I don't go because people will point fingers. People
do they literally, Fode, slow down a second here, because this is really important. We don't get a chance to talk to you and Fatima and Ian every day. So I want to get every last ounce of information out of you. Do people literally point fingers at you in Monrovia?
Oh, yes. Yes. In fact, a friend of mine literally refused to shake my hand because I came from the Italy because I was a survivor.
How do they know? Yes, how do they even know that you're a survivor? How can they tell?
Now, for my case, I was on the ambulance. I was working with a lot of Ebola patients. So
right.
When they missed me for some time, and my boss went on air and said that one of my supervisors came down with a virus. Indeed, people got to know that it was me because there was nowhere in Monrovia corner that I didn't go for patient. So people knew me.
So you're known in your neighborhood. All right, hold tight for a second, because you're in a group called I Survived Ebola, which is a group of Ebola survivors. Have a look at it here on the Facebook page here. You'll also find it on Twitter as well. So hashtag I Survived Ebola if you're looking for it. Fatima, you're also part of that group. And Fode said, how about you? Are people avoiding you? Are they scared of you?
Yes.
Tell us, how?
Yes. The stigmatization is all over the country, especially when you survived and you are discharged. People will not come close to you. People will stand far away from you and talk to you. The people used to come closer to you before Ebola. Then when you survive the Ebola, they will not come close to you. They will stand far away, and some will decide not to come to your house. They will call you on the phone.
Wow.
Some will even say, you still have the Ebola.
Wow.
You still have the Ebola. You still have the Ebola until Ebola is completely done in this country before I go close to Fatima. That's what some will say.
There's something else. Fatima is in Sierra Leone, and there's something else that struck me as you were all talking about your various different medical conditions that you still have, even as survivors. There was something else that was really, really important, and that is about how many people and families and friends you may have lost. This little boy is from Sierra Leone, and he's 12 years old, and he's about to tell us that he's lost his brother, his stepmother, his grandmother, his other brother and sister. Have a listen to this. It's just a remarkable piece of video. It comes from the charity Street Child.
12 years old, and our father is gone. Our stepmother, grandmother, and my brother, and my sister, they're all gone. Nobody to help us again.
See, Ian, I've been to Liberia, I've been through a lot of West Africa, so I'm aware of what the medical facilities are like. To even have people who can help you with psychological distress, with grieving, that's not even possible. So how are these communities even going to manage? What have you seen so far?
Well, I think this child's tragedy reflects something that almost every West African survivor has borne. I've been fortunate not to have lost family members, but I've lost a few friends, and Fode has and Fatima has, many of these survivors have been through the deepest possible tragedies you can imagine. I know this for each of you, and I don't have to deal with some of that stigmatization, and I haven't had to deal with that kind of loss. So
why is that, Ian? Is it because you were airlifted out, you kind of left the situation, and you're not in a neighborhood where everybody knows you got Ebola?
So, I suppose the first answer is I didn't have any family members around to lose.
Sure.
But also, yes, I came to a very different environment, and I've been very fortunate in that way not to have to face that kind of Ebola, and also to have access to some elements of care that I am haunted by sometimes, that my own patients and some of my colleagues and some of my friends didn't have access. Those are really, really important issues as we think through how we should care for ourselves and for other survivors. It's really important to think about how we make sure we're not back in this position again, so that eventually down the road, Fode has the same access to the kind of care that I have, and Fatima has the same access, and the family members of Dauda, who's just spoken to us, have access earlier. We need to make sure that we think about these long-term lessons coming out of the outbreak. But I must say, you know, I sometimes struggle because I was given access to some things that others weren't. And on one hand, I would have died in a week had I not had access to that care. Well, but Ian, on the other hand, Ian, I'm really haunted by the fact that many of my patients did not have access to the same care.
You know, Ian, I will say there is fear online of exactly what you're saying, that access will not continue to be something that people in West Africa have. This is one person on Twitter who says these countries might return to the status quo once they're declared Ebola-free, and survivors will be left to fend for themselves. And this next person gives an example, one that Femi mentioned a little bit earlier. Matt says there's a huge amount of work to do to establish a medical workforce. Liberia had a shortfall of doctors before Ebola. So, Fode, what's changed? If you walk into a medical center, I don't know if we could call it a hospital, if you walk into a hospital or a place where there are doctors, is it different than it was a time before Ebola came?
I think there is a lot of huge work to be done in Liberia when it comes to our medical facilities. We have not gone anywhere, and I'm telling you the truth. if nothing is not done concerning survivors in this country, you're going to have many deaths when it comes to those that have survived from Ebola because of medical condition that cannot be taken care of. Now look at this. Let us look at it. I'm a big person. I could move around. I could talk to friends. But what becomes of the orphan and the one that have lost their parents? What becomes if they don't have the access to medical facility? They don't have access to schooling. There are a lot of huge work to be done. Like the little child you just played. I wish you didn't play because I got so many of them. You're trying to talk to some people to help cater to them so that at least they can have a future. They can have a future and a hope in life.
Chief Fode, I happen to know that the ministers in Liberia actually watch the streaming. They've been watching the Ebola shows that we've been doing over the last year or so. So if you could advise them as a medical student, as somebody who's actually helped with Ebola cases, you survived Ebola, what's the most important thing that Liberia needs for its healthcare system?
Liberia needs a total overhauling of our healthcare system. We need trained medical doctors. We need trained lab technicians. We need nurses. We need more doctors.
Fode, where do they come from, Fode?
We are throwing this call. This is a call to the international world. I mean, we have gone through a lot, like Freetown, like Guinea, and we need to get back on our feet. Until these things can be done in our hospitals, we are just afraid that we might go back with another epidemic when it hit Liberia because we're not even prepared. And look at the many lives it took. And if we are not prepared in future to come, if anything should happen, I can tell you, we are going to die more than we die ever from Ebola.
Fatima, there's so much that West Africa and the world has learned about Ebola, even though it's been known since 1972. We seem to be, a learning curve is really quite deep for this disease. What do you feel that we've learned the most? What's the biggest lesson?
Like for us in Sierra Leone, this is the first outbreak. Like for the health sector, this outbreak has helped us to learn that we have a lot lapses in the hospitals and within us, we the health workers. We have a lot lapses. Yeah. You know, we in the health worker sector, we really need to improve ourselves, to improve the hospitals, to improve the nurses, to employ more workers to help us do better jobs in the hospital. And like for this outbreak, we really need to prepare well, like for the health workers who passed off.
Sure. Sure. Fode just wanted to jump in on Fatima. Go ahead. Yeah, Fode.
Yeah, can I ask Fatima, can I ask you a question? I want to know, you as a health worker now, how is your case when it comes to your workmate and the places you are working presently? What is life like for you there? Because I would really love to know, because we got a series of problems when it comes to health worker in various hospitals. So I want to know what your case is like in Freetown. Maybe we can learn from your experience in Freetown. What is like? What are your colleagues looking at you now? How do they take you?
My colleagues, some are happy, but it was not easy when I started working at the hospital because I lost most of my colleagues there. I lost most of my colleagues, so everything I was so sad. For any time I went to the hospital, I would feel sad because I have lost a lot of friends and lots of colleagues. So life is not easy for me in the hospital. But for my colleague nurses, they are really encouraging me, talking to me that I'll be fine. This is my calling, and I should not be afraid of going to the hospital because I'm a nurse. I'm always on the war front to go and work. So that's my calling.
That's the voice of Fatima Kamara. We also have Fode Gala and also Ian Crozier. He's a doctor of infectious diseases. He's an infectious disease specialist. If you want to talk to them, you'll have to come to the post show at stream.aljazeera.com. Now, Fode and Fatima are part of a group called I Survived Ebola. There's a song out right now that's called One Nation, One Community. Artists from Sierra Leone, Guinea and Liberia raising awareness for Ebola survivors. A positive way to end this show. Thanks for watching. People have been getting Ebola and all well now we heroes. For glad for them and accept them back, now we home. Before embrace them and celebrate them. Hi, you're in the Streams Online post show. We're discussing life after Ebola with 3 survivors. Ian, you were just about to say something as I was wrapping up the main show. What were you going to say?
Can I just add to what Fode and Fatima have said?
Sure.
A crucial thing that we need to do as we sort of near that, hopefully the last mile of this outbreak, is that just like they're doing, we pay attention to what got us here in the first place. Yeah. So these long-term lessons, and they both have pointed out a very important missing element for all of us in Africa. We need to think about how we best develop people just like Fatima and just like Fode. We develop local African healthcare workers who are able to turn into and to engage an outbreak like this when it comes again. And you know, when you're in the middle of a stream, it's hard to pay attention to anything other than the immediate and the urgent. But now as we move forward, it's very crucial, Fode's point is very crucial, that we must, instead of picking up and leaving, we must begin to think about why we got here in the first place. An important aspect of that is understanding how we can develop a group of African healthcare workers who are local, who are talented, who are available, and can be agile enough to turn into the next thing that happens. They are perfect examples of the people that might populate a new healthcare workforce in Liberia and in Sierra Leone. You know, there were 51 doctors in Liberia before Ebola, and now we know how many have died during this part. So not just doctors, but nurses and laboratory technicians. We need to focus on how we grow them up into a group that can really respond well the next time around.
Malika.
Well, I just wanted to share at least one of the responses we're getting from people who are watching you 3 share your stories and are touched by it. This is Bianca, and she says, such amazing people on the stream tonight. Their strength and love for their peers is truly touching. Now, on the back of that, we also got a tweet from someone, Fode, who heard your story about the person who didn't want to shake your hand anymore after your diagnosis. And so Kilachi on Twitter wants to know this. Do you still consider that person a friend, Fode?
Yeah, he will remain my friend. I did some educational talk to him, and he's my best friend.
I would love to hear that education, Fode. What kind of education would you give a friend who wouldn't shake your hand? Tell me.
I told him, I said, I didn't ask for Ebola. I was working for my country, and today it is me, and Ebola is a new soldier. He could hit anytime. It could be you tomorrow. You don't have to despise your family. I don't have to even despise you when you come down with Ebola. It could be any other person. So just leave me out. But what if you're your brother or your sister or your mom, and they came from to eat you? Will you despise them? Will you go away from them? You don't have to do that. You will take their mind, but you will eventually kill them emotionally. So I will accept it because I don't blame you. Don't know it, but don't do it to any other person because it could be anybody from a family member. It could be any of your friends, and you don't have to do what you did to me to them. And this was my education, and you honestly,
I love that because you know what you're doing is you're telling your friend. He's not saying that because he's a bad guy. He's saying that because he's misinformed. No. And you're illustrating a huge need now on the ground in West Africa is for people just like Fode and just like Fatima to be engaged in changing people's minds, in giving information and educating people about this disease. So there's a huge a need for combating ignorance as well as the virus itself, right?
Yeah, so true. So at least if we can do this, if we can do this, and let our government and other people also help us in getting more social activities out there, so people can know about this virus and know how to accept the victim of Ebola, and understand that they can contribute immensely to the society and to the community. Because who knows, you will have another outbreak and you need the very people to come and help, like Dr. Crozer, like other doctors that came from around. Before they get in, we are already there. We can do something before they can get in. So we really need a lot of social work and a lot of people to talk to community leaders and community dwellers so that they can understand that Ebola survivors are not bad people.
See, here's what I'm stuck with, because I hear how passionate you are. I hear the experience and the knowledge that you have to share with your community. But I also have seen on the ground the lack of facilities even before Ebola. So, Fode, you're talking about medical professionals. Where are you going to get them? It's even hard to get kids through university in Liberia. Where are these doctors going to come from? Where are I remember President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was like, everybody, we're waiting for the ambulances to turn up. There weren't ambulances in to take people to hospital even. So if we're going to be cold, hard realists, where is this help coming from?
This is what God did for us that was great. In fact, we never even had a fleet of ambulance that we have now. So our 2 ambulances for Honorable Joseph just came in time. So it's like the weight was really on me and my team, because the Ministry of Health only had 2 then. Then we had 2. So all of the attention that from around Monroe.
You had 2 ambulances in the whole of Liberia?
Before the Ebola crisis, we only had 2 to the ministry then.
Oh, 2 for politicians, but none for anybody else.
We had 2 for the ministry, then 2 for Honorable Joseph, who is a politician. So making it 4. But then the 2 that the Ministry of Health had couldn't cover the country. So it's like most of the weight was on me and my team with Honorable Joseph, so we had to run.
No wonder everybody knows who you are, Fode. If there's only a couple of ambulances in the whole of the country, everyone is going to know the ambulance driver. But you see what I'm saying here? It's not like we can solve the issues of West Africa right now on this TV show. But the reality of it is, even if you're saying government, it's like, what are they going to do? Magic up a couple of health professionals? That's not going to happen.
So this
I think
this
there's
is where we are trying.
Ian.
I think there's a real opportunity here to do one of 2 things. As we respond to this outbreak, we can either put a Band-Aid on for a short 2 or 3 years,
right,
or we can really think very, very hard. And that means from an international level, that means from people on the ground, that means from a government level, from community levels, we begin to think about the next 20 years or the next 30 years. That's difficult. It takes money, it takes commitment, it takes time. There's no easy fix to that. But if we don't begin thinking about the long term, and that means everyone, we're in a small community in this world, right?
Yeah.
The community is very small. We need to begin to really think about how we don't get caught in this place flat-footed, in a sense, again.
Sure.
And that's going to take a long, concerted, strategic effort over time in which multiple different types of partners join in. So, remember the villain here is the virus, yeah? There are many things we could have done sooner and we could have done faster, but we now must join together and think about how we look towards the next 20 or 30 years. And I think as we think about survivors, this is the people in whom we both figure out how to deliver care well, and also whom we figure out how to use survivors to fill some of these gaps. For example, Fatima is the perfect example of this.
So, and Fode, you're a medical student, right?
Yeah.
All right, so hurry up and graduate. Hurry up.
Exactly.
Your country needs you.
And train well,
Yes.
You know why? You know why?
Why?
I have to be thankful to one or two person, that is Dr. Julie of Oregon and Honorable Joseph. Because I dropped out of school for over 3 semesters because I didn't have the money. None of these people are fighting so hard. So why, if they get tired, meaning I'm not going to get the kind of required medical knowledge that I need to help my country. So we need a lot more to be done so that people can have the knowledge. And I had a question for Dr. Ian.
But
Ian,
Fode, I'm going to have to wrap it up now. But I know I'm going to share which of us.
Can I just?
Fode, I have to wrap it up, Fode. Don't give me a hard time, Mr. Famous Ambulance Man. All right, I have to.
We have a phone call.
Well, I want to say something.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So Fatima and Fode and Ian, I feel like the villain in this conversation. Don't make me feel bad, Fode. We've got one last word from the community, and then I'm going to say goodbye to you. Go ahead, Malika.
This is Chinamori on Twitter, and he says, "Strength to these fighters. The fact that they fight the deadly disease is incredibly great. Strength to the nurses who help them."
Ian Crozier, Fode Gala, Fatima Kamara, thank you for being on this show. We really enjoyed hearing your stories, hearing how you're unpacking Ebola and Ebola as survivors. Thank you very much. Good luck. Stay healthy.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you too. Thank you.
Thank you too.
All right. Bye.
Right. Moving on. Goodness me, on the next show, I am off and Malika and Omar will be here discussing what?
Mental illness in prisons, especially prisons here in the U.S. There's a new report by the Human Rights Watch, which details how jail and prison staff are using excessive and often unnecessary force against prisoners with mental illness. We're talking pepper spray, tasers, other restraints. That's for tomorrow's show. Till then, we'll see you online.